Hi guys, my name's Alyssa and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something really boring and I'm going to talk at you like I'm a talking head, all about the validity of astrology. So I much rather talk about this with another person next to me, like say a complete naysayer, but it is really hard to actually find somebody to debate who really knows what they're talking about. Usually debating somebody ends up with them just calling me names because of the fact that they can't back up the fact that they didn't research astrology enough in order to argue their claims with me, okay? It's sort of amazing how any astrological naysayer just doesn't know anything about astrology. So we're gonna go through some things that usually come up with astrology. If I miss some and you know them, why don't you drop them in the comments, because then I can look at them, write them down, and remember to talk about them in a part 2 if we need this. But this is mainly for you so that you can know, like if you feel any part of you doesn't know why astrology is real and you kind of want the information, or if you're feeling like you're debating everybody and you don't have the information at the palm of your hand, I want to give it to you in the most simplistic way possible. So here we go. Yeah. I was just talking so much I lost my breath. I just need to breathe, Alyssa, breathe. Okay, so the first thing that people try to use to disprove astrology is called the Barnum effect or the Fourier effect. They'll use different versions of this test in order to tell you why astrology isn't real. And what this test consists of is that you could have a classroom of 28 people, 28 students, and you ask them all for their sun sign and then pass out a card that represents their sun sign so they can read about them. Now, the majority of people will look at it and be like, holy shit, this totally represents me. And then the teacher gets to go and expose the whole thing and say, guess what, you guys? You all got the exact same card of information. You see, astrology is bogus because you all believed that this very broad statement was about you because of your sign, when in reality it's about humans in general. Okay, so the reason why this test is really pathetic is because in and of itself, it's like ironic that you would actually take superficial, like basic things that are true of every human being and then act like that's what astrology is actually giving people. And then somehow, when you prove that that is correct, that every person agrees with this basic human behavior, like after you find out that's true, then you say that disproves astrology. No, the only thing it does is prove what you already knew to be true, which is that there are things that are basic to human behavior, human intelligence, the way we are. We all want to be needed. We all want certain things, okay? They're just true of me, they're true of you. We want to be accepted. We want to be considered intelligent. We want to be attractive. We don't want to be annoying. We want to feel like we're wanted. We want love in some way, shape, or form. We all at the base root want that stuff. So to say that this disproves astrology is so incredibly asinine because it doesn't. It doesn't even talk about astrology. Like, that would be me being the worst astrologer ever if I was like, here are these basic things that you are. I'm gonna pretend like they all belong to Virgo. And then I'm gonna call it a day. Now, there are some conspiracy theories held by myself that places like Cosmo and Vogue and anyone that just does strictly sun sign astrology in this kind of basic fashion was purposely planted there to make people not value astrology, to make them actually believe that the Barnum effect would disprove astrology. Because you see it so much, you see how stupid Cosmo horoscopes are. You see how dumb it is. You see how like transits affecting you on a monthly basis based on your sun sign doesn't make any logical sense. And then you're just like, oh, okay, so astrology is not real. But of course, as soon as you walk in the door of astrology and open it up, it's a door you can't shut because you start to realize, I'm a moon sign. I'm also a rising sign. I might be a Libra, but my Venus is ruled by Virgo. Venus rules Libra, and I am a specific Libra ruled by Virgo. So if you give me something that is kind of Virgo-y, I am also going to agree with it to an extent because of that energy being hyper Virgo in my life. But I'm also a Pisces rising, so you're gonna talk to me about Pisces, and I'm gonna be like, I do that. But that's because you're also specifically talking about traits. And when you get too positive on traits, and a lot of astrologers are guilty of this, people are more inclined to accept them. Now, this is a problem with astrology, and this is what people will have against it, but it's not necessarily disproving it to disprove the astrologer's way of interpreting the signs, okay? So of course, yes, if you're talking and you're complimenting me, I'm gonna wanna believe it, kind of, except that particular thing is not what I agree with. If you compliment me, my immediate reaction is to say that that's stupid, you don't mean it. Why? Because I have trauma, okay? So yeah, but I like how that's also a thing. You're like, oh, because it's all positive, you're gonna believe it. I'm like, no, you know what? You tell me that I'm a creative, beautiful something Libra, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I don't really have that much Libra in me. I got bad skin. I have stupid teeth. I'm a little bit fat all the time, just like a little bit, you know, and then like that's not a thing. But that's kind of like Virgo-y of me, right? Okay, anyway. So that on its own is stupid. And I also would believe that my own hate videos kind of proved that theory in like a backward sense, because I made hate videos about the signs, and you should see the comments on them. You don't know anything about me, bitch. You're a stupid whore. You Libra trash. You don't know shit. Because I am using negative words. Okay, so what this says is that positive and negative, we are more inclined, most people, to want to hear positive things about ourselves. And if we do, we're more willing to accept it because we want to be needed, we want to be loved. This doesn't disprove astrology. This just proves that there is things about being positive and negative that work within us. And actually, if you look at negative is always feminine. If you look at something that goes into something else, like even in a plug, there is the female, which is inner, and then there's the male, which is the one that protrudes out. So when you look at that information, we are naturally inclined to hate feminine nature, to think that it is repulsive. Like, this isn't even true. Okay, so now if you hate feminine nature, this is also a problem with what kind of destroys the earth, because it's all linked, we are all energy, yada, yada, yada. I don't really have to go into that so much, but that has nothing to do with disproving astrology. All it does is prove the fact that we don't like negative things, and we really are pretty misogynistic as an entire world. And that's something else for a complete different debate. But let's go into the next point of contention with astrology, is that there's no way the planets can move you and make you do things. Okay, this has been forced on us even more so by astrologers who will say, well, if the moon moves the tides, why can't Saturn move my body or my brain or whatever? And that's, sorry guys, it's not true. The moon really can't move your body. And the reason the moon and all these other things can't move your body, even though your body's 70% water, the moon doesn't move your bathtub, okay? The moon moves the ocean. Possibly. Another conspiracy theory. So really, we are not being altered because of the planets in any way that's physical. It's also actually not very spiritual, okay? Like, the universe doesn't equate to God. I'm not gonna actually go into that conversation because I'm stepping on something. Because that's a completely different debate. The universe is a mind. It's set up like a mind. It's a network and a connection and a pattern of planets and solar systems and galaxies that work in a certain way that keep things alive because of poles, because of all of this, right? If you look at an actual birth chart, a natal chart, that kind of energy, you will understand that it looks a lot like the universe, right? Not only because it has all the planets in it, because that's a thing too, but the way that they're all connected. Because ultimately, at the time that you were born, you were just a version of that moment in time in the universe. And now to explain to somebody that, that's not true, that the universe could have any effect on us, is kind of stupid and kind of makes us kind of egocentric, if you think about this. To say that we are made of the universe. We are just little versions of it, because as above, so below. Because if it happens on the macrocosm, it has to happen on the microcosm. So we are reacting in a similar fashion to the planet's energies that were there when we were born, because that was what was imprinted on us, because that's what our first breath in our flesh came out in. So we react in the same way as that point in the universe. Because we are made from the universe. We're not bigger than the universe. We do not exist outside of the realm of the universe. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a completely egotistical thought to think that we are not tiny little universes walking around when we absolutely are. If scientists and doctors, they look at your brain and the way that it operates and lights up and all that shit, well, it doesn't really light up, but you know, when they try to show you how it's happening, whatever that shit does, it's acting as its own little universe. We can't even unwrap the brain. But the brain is receiving signals in the same sense that the universe is sending them out. And granted, it's not saying, oh, Saturn moved over here and now we are all moving because we are robots. It's like, no, it's affecting the collective consciousness. And we exist within our own consciousness inside that collective consciousness. And that collective consciousness exists because of the universe. And so now we all are as one, but we are all many. That's just what that is. So no, the planets don't move you, but it's incredibly, and I will say this a third time to wrap it in to this beautiful bow, it's incredibly egotistical to honestly believe that we're not little pieces of the universe, that we are somehow exist outside of the universe. Okay? Now here's another thing that happens is that a lot of scientists will just disprove it as pseudoscience because they can get a bunch of astrologers to get a bunch of natal charts together and somehow perform some experience in a controlled environment and do it one time and say that because they couldn't figure out who the people were, they couldn't match up the charts, and not every astrologer got it right, that somehow that disproves astrology. 100% certain that those astrologers were not good enough. And they might have been famous, they might know some things, but they can't read a fucking natal chart. And maybe even I couldn't do it, who knows? But they didn't ask me, so like, I don't know what to say. Like, you should first test the validity of the astrologer by putting them up against their own critics, the people who've read their charts. Otherwise, the entire scientific experiment is invalid. You can't do it. Another thing is, where are the scientists with their hypotheses? Because all science is fiction. Because all science has to have a hypothesis until you can prove your own hypothesis correct. So where is the hypothesis from the scientists that say, all right, you know what, fuck it. Why is astrology true? I'm gonna figure out why. A lot of people believe in it. Is it because they're all stupid? Or is it actually something bigger? I wanna find that out. The scientists can't do it because they're up their own asses, because they're all fucking men. Sorry. It's true. Women are more inclined to believe in astrology because we are more inclined to think outside the box, because we have different wired brains. Now, there are some men who are more inclined to the feminine who do it as well. If you are more feminine, you will be more interested in astrology, at least first. That's how it goes. Why little girls love astrology, women love astrology. More feminine men love astrology. It's very hard to meet a masculine man that loves it, and even when he does, he's embarrassed because he can't convince everybody. He's got to closet the astrology. So anyway, so all this is like, your masculine energy doesn't like astrology. I get it. Why? Because you can't control people if they're looking past you and beyond you. Okay, this gets me to my next point about whether or not astrology is evil. Okay, astrology is not evil, and the Bible never, ever, 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 ever says the astrology is evil. The Bible doesn't say it. You know what says it? The Catholic Church Catechism. The Catechism says that astrology is wrong. You know, the Bible says a lot of weird things, like also that Lot's daughters got him drunk and raped him to get pregnant because his wife turned to salt because of Sodom and Gomorrah, because of all the fornicators. Okay, so because of all the fornicators in Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot, who was favored by God, walked away scot-free and then got raped by his fornicating rapist daughters to get pregnant because his wife turned into a pillar of salt. I just had to repeat that for you. There are certain things in the Bible that will say that be wary of astrologers, which I would agree with. There are a lot of astrologers you should not be talking to because they suck and they're in it for personal gain and they don't give a shit about you. They just want money. Also, a lot of astrologers are fear mongers. You know them. They make you afraid to not check your transit. They make you afraid not to log into their app. They're fear mongers and they make money off your fear. They create the problem to sell the cure, just like every spiritual leader has done for forever. Be wary of them. Be wary of fortune tellers, people who are going to tell you the way that things are. This is a true statement too. I would also be wary of fortune tellers. Pick-a cards are really popular because they'll tell you certain things, but like you should vet them. You should kind of be wary of anybody you're getting this spiritual information from because you're taking on their energy and people might be bad people. Like this is just common knowledge that we somehow forgot and we kind of think that this means that astrology is bad. It doesn't mean that at all. The Catholic Church wants you to believe it's evil. They also want you to believe that only the Pope is closest to God and he's a man. So they also hate negative energy. They also hate female power. The one that takes all and soaks in all of the information. They hate the female who has all the knowledge, right? Absolutely. The female is against the Catholic Church. Now, astrology is actually more masculine. And in that sense, that's a huge part of replacing that energy because you look up to it. And it is the mind, and the mind is more masculine, where the emotions are more feminine. To be able to take astrology and put it down to earth is a feminine power because she knows how to relate the stars to your life. It doesn't make it evil, but also the Bible says the woman's evil. Also the Bible says, never trust a female to teach you. Paul said that. So, will not suffer me a woman, that's it. So like really honestly and truly, the Bible is made up of a lot of metaphors and it's really, I actually have a podcast called Embracing Glory where I go into a lot of these metaphors and things in the Bible and in fairy tales and everything and pull it out because ultimately it's just a bunch of archetypes. This isn't the reality that we live in. But at the same time, the Bible never says astrology is evil. The Catholic Church does. So please just stop saying that shit. Okay. Another thing is, let's see, one more thing. I feel like, how do I throw this in? Sorry, I have this ring light. I feel like it's not getting my face all the time. Sorry. It's just dark. Okay, so the one last thing is that scientists have said that astrology is unfalsifiable because predictions can be made and they're not always 100% correct. It's the last thing I'm going to leave you on. And then I'm going to go because it's already 18 minutes and I don't really want to edit this video. You make decisions. You make predictions. You are a human being. And you only exist within one part of the universe. Like I said, you were born from a certain place. You're not everything. You aren't always tapped in. This actually happens within the spiritual community. A lot of people channel. A lot of psychics channel. A lot of astrologers predict. But they're all saying different things that they are sure is right because these channels, these predictions, they've served them enough times to say that, hey, I'm good at this. But once you bring out all the different ones, they don't add up. And why? Because we're all different. Because there's all unique ideas. And something that might seem good to one person is going to be negative to another. Negative. See, I just put negative in the bad part. Positive, negative, it's all going to coexist. And that's actually the one thing about law of attraction that people forget. That our differences are what bring us further into truth. So if all these psychics who made these predictions then came together and talked about them, I bet you they would come to a complete agreement with what's going to happen, as long as they could take their egos out of the way. But the truth is that they can't. You see, I met a lot of people. I see a lot of people. They're just constantly like, well, this is right. This is true. Because I know it to be. And it's like, well, what happens when it's not? Because that happens sometimes. We've all been wrong before. As you just need someone to bounce your idea off with. You just can't be alone in your prediction, but everybody wants to be. The bigger the prediction, the more people you need involved. Now, some people will say, oh, I predicted all this stuff. If you're a good astrologer, you've predicted certain events. It's true. If you're a bad astrologer, you didn't. That's also true. But to say that astrology is unfalsifiable is also kind of negating the fact that every single person has a different connection to God, which we already know that because the entire world is full of different gods, and we base wars on the fact that different religions should be king because we can't come into agreement. So religions are also not a science. Go figure. But the truth of the matter, and the one thing that you need to know at the very end of this video, is that science has not caught up to figure out why spirituality is true. Spirituality is not behind science. Spirituality is faith and belief because we know there's something more. Science is working its way up to prove and disprove certain things. When science wants to disprove astrology, it doesn't even know where to begin because astrology's up here and science is still down here. So let's hope that science gets its act together and figures it the fuck out. And I hope that if you are someone who doesn't agree with astrology, that you could take some of my points and you could disprove them with actual real life facts that I wouldn't be able to debate you. So if you have something, you have a question, you have something, let me know. I'll make it part 2. I promise you I will. Because I love a good debate and you can't beat me in this one. People have tried. Lots of people. Can't win. Not because I'm an egomaniac, which might be true to some people, but because I know my shit and I know everything that I could humanly possibly at this moment in time know about astrology, and I'm only learning more every day. You, however, don't like it. Therefore, you stopped learning a long time ago. And that's why science can't catch up to spirituality. And I'm out. Okay, bye.